Hello friends, Colin here. Today I wanted to make a quick screencast to show you some features of BBEdit in the language-specific settings that I personally have started using more and that I think could be really useful to a lot of people, especially who are working with different kinds of files sort of simultaneously in BBEdit. So what we're going to do is load up the BBEdit preferences with Command comma, and then we will go down to the Languages tab, and then right down here you're going to see language specific settings. So let's add one for Ruby, and what we can see here is, so it's got some presets here. So the first thing is line comment, block comment start, etc. We could add that in, but this is fine for me right now. And if we look at the editor, you can see we could have a different font. We can set the tab width. 2 is what I want in Ruby. We can set soft wrap on or off, which I would want in something like Ruby, but if I were working in, say, a TSV file, then I wouldn't. And also I would probably have the tab width be much higher so that it would be able to separate out the data better. If you go to the display over here, this is the one that I really think is pretty cool. So I like my editor window to be pretty minimal, but it might be different based on what language I'm working with and where I find it to be the most useful. So let's go ahead and turn off all of these items in the navigation bar that are on. And then over here, I know what language I'm working on in this case. I don't need to be able to switch it once I'm into it. And document statistics, I'll leave that on. Cursor position, I'll let that on. Don't care about line break type, and text encoding isn't super relevant either. And for this, I'm going to set my color scheme for when I'm working in Ruby files to be Railscast. Another couple of things you can do here in the Files tab is you can change the settings per language. If you would like the file to always have to end with a line break and also to always strip trailing whitespace, which is what I want when dealing with Ruby files. And lastly, you can set up your language server. So you can see that I have the SolarGraph language server set up for Ruby and that it is automatically working. So that's great. I don't have to do anything there. So let's really quickly go, and I'm going to set up one for Markdown. And what I'm going to change here, going to turn that off, going to turn that on. And what I'm going to change here is I'm going to say, pick Gruber Dark as my theme for when I'm working in Markdown. I kind of thought it was fun to pick sort of canonical color schemes for each type of file. So Gruber Dark felt appropriate for Markdown, Railscast felt appropriate for Ruby files. And I'm not going to mess with any of the rest of these for this. And then for JavaScript files, let's go ahead and do the same thing, but also let's try the Seafoam theme for this one. Okay, so now I've got a project open that I've been working on recently called Argyle. And let's just go ahead and load some of these different file types. So for the Markdown file, we'll go ahead and load the README, which is shown in the theme which I assigned, which is nice. For the Ruby file, let's go ahead and say blogs controller could be one of them. So load that up there, make this a little bit smaller. And for the JavaScript file, let's go ahead and load up application.js. So now we've got these 3 files open. And what I really like here is that when I'm especially in the put everything in its own window mode instead of the open document in front window mode, which you can just set either way, I kind of use both, is that I can very quickly visually differentiate the kinds of files that I'm working with and then just go between them very quickly. So I think this is a really great feature in BBEdit that I'm definitely going to continue to use like this. And if you haven't seen this before, I recommend it. One of the really great things about this app is how much you can customize it to really fit the workflow that you want to have. So I'm going to be making more videos like this about different cool things I find that you can do in BBEdit, different kinds of workflows, tips, all of that sort of thing. So if you enjoy this, please subscribe, and I will be posting more soon. Thank you.